Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong.
Don't curse, speak English.
Armstrong.
Virtuous society.
Armstrong.
I dare you to listen.
Hey, turn it up. Hey. Armstrong. Get on the right side. Armstrong.
Elevate your mind.
Armstrong.
I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong.
Yo, man, it's your boy K.O. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers.
Armstrong.
The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up.
Hello, everybody. You know, you can have, you've been on the air for a long time, we have, and you think you've just about covered every subject matter. And then you realize there's so many subjects that you're not even aware of. Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show, and thank you so much for joining us. And the topic today is really interesting. Because I don't know how much you even think about this, but there was an article by Michelle Singletary in the December issue of the Washington Post 2012, which she talks about as a parent, you teach your children about stranger danger. But there's a different kind of perpetrator kids need to fear. The friend or relative who might steal their identity and damage their credit history years before they've had a chance to establish it themselves. And I have to tell you, according to Michelle, experts have long warned adults that they need to protect their personal information from crooks who fraudulently obtain such data using stolen Social Security numbers or credit cards and other financial information. Identity thieves buy cars, get cell phones, and open new credit card accounts. Now, our guest, Brian Zimmerman, who is the president of the Coalition for a Secure Driver's License, has published numerous articles and often been cited in U.S. newspapers about the subject. Brian, I must tell you, as I welcome you to the broadcast, this is really a new one for me. Child identity theft in its years and years, that relatives can steal their identity and use it. A child, I don't see how it's possible. Brian?
Yeah, hello. This is Brian Zimmer. How are you?
Of course I know it's Brian Zimmerman. How is it possible?
No, just Zimmer, Armstrong.
I don't know.
My last name is just Zimmer.
Well, you know what? In my queue, it has Zimmerman, so my apologies.
That's all right. It's easy to mistake.
Okay, we're beyond that. How is this possible?
Well, first of all, it's a new phenomena. Identity theft itself is only about 10, 15 years old in terms of affecting a lot of us. The Federal Trade Commission keeps statistics on this, and for your benefit, your listeners, identity theft and identity fraud complaints increased from 230,000, that's about 250,000, in the year 2000 to more than 1.2 million in 2008. And it's been hanging at about 1.2 million and 1.3 million 2009, 2010 up to the present. So every year, and of course, we're talking about new victims every year. So there are a lot of people throughout the United States at all ages that are victims of identity theft. The problem is that the pros, along with sometimes family members, are targeting children. And, of course, the children don't know they've been targeted. They don't know they've been victims for years.
And the children are 51 times more likely than adults to be victimized by identity theft?
Yes, and younger children even more so. In 2008, researchers at the Identity Theft Resource Center found that 17% of children affected by identity theft, that's the ones we know about. I mean, there's a lot of identity theft they won't know for years, were less than 12 months old. Few parents think to check a 2-year-old's credit history or criminal record, but increasingly these children are growing up with a blemished identity record that remains undetected for 15 years or more. In your lead-in, Armstrong, and by the way, I'm delighted to be on your show. I've often enjoyed listening to you.
Thank you.
There's a growing number of professional criminals who steal children's identities and use them as they're committing new crimes, so that if they get picked up, they'll be booked as first-time offenders and hopefully released on bail or released with suspended sentences. And people are arrested, they're brought to trial, or they plead out, they are back on the streets again, and 15 years later, a child whose name they've been using suddenly discovers they have a criminal record.
Let me stop you. I need to stop you because obviously I think on a deeper intellectual level, I know the answer to these questions, but because so much of this is swirling in my head now, I'm just going to ask, not having the time to process it. So how do you steal an infant's identity without doing some kind of background check, some kind of signature, something? And how do you continue to do this and get away with it for so long? I mean, I just don't understand. Adults establish credit cards. Adults establish other things that can be copied, that can give you the sort of momentum you need to steal and take on somebody else's identity. But the child really has no identity.
Well, that's because in our society we have no national IDs, and IDs aren't issued to anyone except if you go in and ask for one. There's only one state that I know of that currently issues free IDs. 2 states will issue IDs to people free if they say they don't have the means to pay, Tennessee and Georgia. Other than that, anywhere else in the United States, and a child, to obtain an ID, has to have a parent with them and a parent's approval. So there's barriers to a child getting an ID. In most other advanced countries, there's something called the National Birth Registry. But in our country, it doesn't really exist.
Why not?
Congress never required it, and although the Department of Health and Human Services has a kind of equivalent, it's not well managed. It doesn't meet what we call audit standards for accuracy.
So Social Security number doesn't qualify for a national ID?
Not at all, because the Social Security Administration has never wanted it to, and so they themselves have made sure that it doesn't work as one. In fact, if you go to their site, they say you shouldn't use a Social Security card as an identity document.
So your date of birth certainly is not one.
Well, let me kind of go through that. The primary documents that the most... Let's see, pardon me, Armstrong, what state are you in?
Washington, D.C.
Okay, you're here. You're in D.C.
Yes.
But
I was born and raised in South
Carolina. The District of Columbia, DMV, does a credible job of confirming identities before issuing new driver's licenses. That's the only place in this town that anyone in the town you live in, that anyone's really making much effort to confirm identity. Even federal agencies don't have very good standards for confirming identity of new hires. There's a process they go through, but it takes a while. It wouldn't be practical for purposes of an identity document that you'd actually want to use to cash a check.
But what about if you need your fingerprint to match the ID?
Well, there are now a number of states that do that. More states are going to something called facial recognition. But the problem with children is that they aren't in the system. So there's no match because the children's fingerprints are never taken. And so if an adult can get hold of the child's information and manipulate the birth date and a few other things, perhaps produce a counterfeit birth certificate, they can go into a DMV, get a driver's license in that child's name. Now they've got the identity of the child, but they have their own age.
So let me
because
stop.
It would look unrealistic if they were putting down 8 years old and they're 45 years old. They have their own photo, but nobody knows it because they've defrauded the DMV's processes. Now they've got a driver's license. So they can, not only can they drive, but they can use it for all the purposes you need a driving license for in an urban living, and most of that's not driving.
Okay, let me stop you again.
Sure.
What is it that you need to possess of a child in order to steal their identity?
Well, let me give you a typical example. Criminals will sift through public notices in newspapers, searching state and local birth and death notices. They'll also come by and dig in garbage cans where they see someone's living with a child. They'll pull out documents to try and obtain the child's Social Security number and their correct current name, perhaps their birth location, and if they can, they'll try to obtain the child's birth certificate. Normally, they won't use that birth certificate in their own state. For example, here in the District of Columbia, they'll drive over to another state where there's no access to the public records of the place the child's born, and they'll manipulate the data on the form. They'll forge it, alter it, say Pennsylvania, where there's been a lot of this, and they'll obtain a driver's license because Pennsylvania has no idea there is a child like that. This guy comes in and says, I was born in D.C. 35 years ago. They don't have any means to prove or disprove it.
Brian Zimmer, hold there. We're coming back.
Yep.
Brian Zimmer, president of the Coalition for Secure Driver's License. We'll be back. Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. Just like the Affordable Care Act seeks to ensure people with public or private coverage can find high-quality health care, AAA911health.com offers consumers you with access to better information, quality care, and big-time savings on your health care. Yes, big time. AAA911health.com offers a 90-day money-back guarantee. That's right. If AAA911health.com haven't saved you money, guess what? They will pay you back in full your membership with no questions asked. Just tell them Armstrong Williams sent you to AAA911health.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make 100 million or 10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
A few observations with our guest, Brian Zimmer. I actually find it very hard to comprehend that credit issuers have no way of verifying birth dates on credit applications, it seems like that's a loophole that should have been closed long ago. I mean, and the thing about it, I just tried doing my own some research, and you know what? There's just not a whole lot out there on child identity theft. And
that's right.
What is obvious, a knowledge gap. I mean, several book chains and even library systems you assume that would have it, it's not even there. Even sometimes online searches, it's not even there, which is baffling to me, Brian.
Well, let me just say that I think we may have discovered it here at the Coalition. I became aware of it when I worked for the Congress as an investigator around 2004, 2005, because I was meeting regularly with the Federal Trade Commission, and I said, congressmen keep getting concerned letters from constituents about this, and you don't have any way to discern age of complainants, so I can't get any data from your records because I can see how old the victims are. So until about 2004, they didn't even know at the Federal Trade Commission that this even existed, because they didn't bother to break out ages below about 19. And even today, a lot of their data is only under 19, not under 12, because they didn't ask people. It didn't occur to them to ask. So this problem has been around a while, but nobody knew it.
Here's the thing.
I got into this when I presented this information to my organization's board of directors, and they said, well, if no one else is going to do something about it, you should, meaning me and the organization. So we started doing research on it, and I think we probably are about the only source for much useful information about it right now in terms of one place.
This situation seems to be more than tragic. I mean, it's dire. Let's just take this worst case scenario. A child could die during a visit to the hospital. If the child's identity thief had been there before and used the child's name with a different blood type, medication, allergies, and other medical information, what would be the outcome in a situation like this?
Well, that particular outcome, I think, is only it's an issue, but it's very, very less of an issue than the tens of thousands of 15-year-olds or 16-year-olds who are showing up to get a driver's license and discovering that they've got a whole criminal record and or a bad driving record. And then when they're 18, they discover they can't get a college scholarship because their credit is totally ruined. And it takes these young people years to get out of the mess that they don't discover until they're 16, 17, 18 years old. Okay. That's really the numerical problem. The blood type thing is an interesting issue, but frankly, there's just absolutely no awareness of this, so there's no data, so there's no way that I can comment intelligently to your listeners about that.
So how do you stop someone from giving out Social Security numbers, date of birth, unless it's a critical matter? And then how do you keep your how do you not carry your child's Social Security card and valuable information with you? Because I think these thieves are very sophisticated. And how do you, if a doctor, I don't know, this is sometimes when I'm in the bank, or if I'm with a loan officer of a mortgage company, and sometimes I don't have an EIN number, and I use my Social Security number in some of my business practices, and they'll yell out, what is your date of birth and Social Security number? And I said, I'm not gonna answer that out loud. It's just like
I have the same problem, and when they ask me that, I say, can I have a piece of paper, please?
Yes,
give me a pen.
I'm not gonna say that out loud. And even on the phone, banks will do now. What they will do is send you the secure file, and then they'll ask you to put all your information in there. And the bank calls back and say, well, I have to read. I said, I'm not gonna put that in writing. You have to answer that. Ask that over the phone. You have to write it down. I'm not gonna write that down.
Well, good for you, Armstrong. Unfortunately, banks are very cavalier with this, and many banks have really terrible business practices, and there's a lot of identity theft that happens to adults, because adults have bank accounts, and that transpires because the banks don't train the clerks to even identify counterfeit, i.e. fake IDs, from valid IDs. Most fake IDs are easily recognized if the bank clerk or you or I, whoever gets one, picks it up and puts her hand. We can see right away, well, that's not a real driver's license. But banks rarely train their employees on this matter, which is pathetic.
You know what?
Frankly.
I got to tell you something, and I don't like being paranoid, but you know what? I never, ever put any of my personal information on laptops or cell phones. Now, I will get the, they have these applications now, and I'm sort of asking whether you think that this Keeper, which is a Keeper like a safe that you can put all your information in, do you even think that's safe?
Well, I do endorse them, and I want to just get a chance. You asked me two very good questions, and then we moved on. If I could go back to them. You asked me what parents should do to protect children's identity, and that's a darn good question. So the first thing is safeguard any of the forms that have data on it, especially a birth certificate. If you don't have a safety deposit box, and safety deposit box are very secure places to put these things, and if you do have one, that's definitely where you should put it. If you don't have a safety deposit box, then you need to lock up birth certificates and government paperwork that includes Social Security numbers and precise biographical data, such as place of birth, in some kind of at-home safe that is too heavy for one guy to pick up and carry away, or lock it, or you can also get some that bolt to the floor. Both of those are good ideas. I have them. I recommend them to others. You can pick them up at a Staples for $50, $60 that are perfectly satisfactory.
You got also.
I don't mean to advertise for Staples, but any of the office
no, it's
supply
okay.
stores.
Whatever works. But you also recommend Keeper.
Well, not by name, but it's a good product. Yeah.
I'm talking about the Keeper.
I'm not in the business of providing commercial endorsements.
Oh no, I use Keeper. I use Keeper on my smartphone. So.
But I'm saying you need some kind of a useful application, so that if you forget your cell phone in a restaurant or someplace that's publicly accessible, they can't pop it open and find your information. Absolutely.
How do you keep kids who are so easily manipulated from divulging their personal information?
Well, that is exactly. We actually have a brochure. We work with Boys and Girls Clubs, and we're adding more all the time to actually get the folks at the Boys and Girls Clubs to brief in their parents and send home notes to parents of Boys and Girls Club children, many of whom are what we'd call at-risk children. And the number one rule is talk to your child. As soon as they're old enough to understand this, then you need to talk to them and say, don't hand out your information to people without my permission, without my knowledge. Safeguard it. Some parents won't tell their children, don't provide your home address unless you're with a police officer.
You know what's
Don't tell people, because people will do these things. Grown-up bad folks will do this.
You know what's
we have a particular thing we recommend, which is if you're in a state that allows young children to get a state-issued ID, you should do that as soon as possible. Now, one of the parents has to go with the child, of course, take them down there. There's a form you sign, say, and you have to bring proof you're the parent, but that's not hard to do. And then get that state-issued ID. Not obviously they're too young to drive, but most states these days do issue IDs to young children, provided the parental approval is obtained. Now, what that does is, and I'm going to circle back to banks in just a second, Armstrong, if you'll let me. What that does is it puts them into a state system. Now, the state DMVs, almost all of them in this country, will work with credit bureaus to confirm identities based on their ID records. They will send queries. The states won't respond to you or me, but they will respond to a credit service that has a contract with them to confirm an identity. And it's that loophole is why, not loophole, that issue is why professional criminals want to get a driver's license, is so that if someone tries to confirm the identity, the state that gave it to them will say, oh yeah, we've got a guy named Bill Jones here, etc., unaware it's actually an identity stolen from a child. If you get your child in District of Columbia or in Virginia, Virginia DMV actually is promoting this for the last 2 years to encourage parents to get their children IDs at the youngest age. So there are several DMV states, Virginia, Ohio, Arizona, all do that. Washington State has started doing that to get parents to take that additional step to get an ID. It has a lot of other benefits. Children sometimes get lost. I don't mean dangerously lost, but lost from the parent's point of view, and it really helps law enforcement if you can tell them that the child has in the case of the District of Columbia, a DC-issued ID, because they can actually put that out, the photo and the name out through their cars in most states.
But what happens?
So they can look for the kid on the streets.
But what happens when the children are victimized by their own parents, who sometimes fall on hard economic times, and instead of finding an alternative way to seek help, they turn on their children?
There's not much they can do, and that does happen, and it's a big misfortune. The only thing I can offer is that particular part of children victims doesn't seem to be growing. The part that's growing are statistically are children who've been victimized by complete strangers. So the trend is not for more parents to do that. It's actually for about the same number or maybe fewer parents to do that. And the bigger problem today are strangers or casual acquaintances of the parents.
Man, it's been wonderful talking to you. Hopefully we can have you back again to continue these updates. This is such a critical subject. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you for having me on the program, Armstrong, and keep up your excellent work on the radio.
Thank you, Brian Zimmer. And we'll be back with Bob Cusack.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming up, Bob Cusack. I know he's not on the line yet. Bob, are you there? No, but he will be. No guest yet. So listen, you have to be so careful with your children, with their social security numbers, with their date of births, because if someone is trying to inquire about your child's birthday, and especially if they ask about their social security number, that is a red flag. They can actually steal that child's identity, have criminal records, and the child doesn't find out until almost 15 years later. What a crime against that child. Parents, you have to be so careful in the information that you share with people that you think you can trust, and especially with total strangers. And you really have to teach your children not to divulge information not only to strangers, but people they know. Because you could put somebody else up to do your dastardly deeds. You know, we live in a society today where you just have to be so careful. It is sad we come to a point where it's just hard to trust anybody. You never know what anyone's intentions are. And once one child is harmed and once an adult's identity is stolen for them and the word spreads like wildfire, everybody becomes suspect. Somebody can ask you questions and it could be innocent. But because of something you may have read or just heard, you become very cautious. Very cautious. I'm going to get to my callers after I get Bob Cusack on the phone. So callers, just be patient because there's going to be a lot of time for you today. Don't go anywhere. I know he's coming on. He only has 5 minutes, and I want to get him in and get him out. But you have to be so careful. That is the world we live in today. That you can steal an innocent child's identity. I never knew that could exist. Bob Cusack, you're 5-minute man. Welcome to the broadcast.
Armstrong, how are you?
You go from 15 to 5, but I'll take whatever you give us.
I appreciate it. I'm sure we could get a substantive conversation going.
Talk to us about what is the sequestration, the impact, and where are we?
Well, it is going to go into effect, and basically this is $85 billion in cuts to both domestic spending and defense spending. So this will cut back on government services ranging from border security to workplace safety inspections to the Pentagon. And the Pentagon is getting more of a hit than the domestic spending side. So you have a lot of people saying that the sky will fall and that this is going to cost, CBO has said, the Congressional Budget Office has said, this will lead to the loss of 750,000 jobs. And right now, you have a blame game of who is to blame for the sequester, and you don't really have a lot of substantive talks on how to avert it, whether that's postponing the cuts or replacing the cuts with other cuts.
What and where in domestic spending will be cut?
The way it's set up, it's that it's across the board. So this is across the board in government spending, and the Office of Management and Budget at the White House has decided that certain things will be exempt, but very few things, and that's something like support for soldiers fighting in the war. But Congress is cut. This is across-the-board cuts where the FBI is cut, where workers have to go in, especially if they're essential workers, but they will not get paid for 1 every 10 workdays. So now maybe they'll eventually get paid back if they get a deal, but FBI, food safety, workplace safety, border security, all of these things are going to see massive furloughs. The Pentagon has said that 800,000 jobs could be lost, and that's also contractors, because obviously the Defense Department contracts with a lot of contractors, whether it's from Lockheed or Northrop Grumman, and this is concerning some members of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, because they know some of the interest in their districts and states, they're going to get hit.
So why does it have to be a blame game instead of it being a situation where this is necessary?
The big thing, and we go back to tax cuts, is the tax policies that Democrats and Republicans seemingly can never agree. The White House wants more revenue. They got revenue, obviously, in the fiscal cliff. They want to close tax loopholes to help pay for the sequester, and Republicans are drawing a clear line in the sand and saying, absolutely not. We're interested in getting a deal, but we're not going to give you more revenue. Republicans also say if we're going to close loopholes, that's fine, but we should do that in the context of tax reform. But you're not going to get more revenue out of us after Obama clearly won the negotiation with Republicans on the fiscal cliff. Republicans in the House also point out they have twice passed legislation that would avert the sequester. It hasn't passed this year, but it did pass in the last Congress. And what you're going to see next week is Senate Democrats and Senate Republicans are going to have competing votes. They're both going to have bills that will go to the Senate floor. They both will fail, and then it's a PR game. And I see very little chance of much happening. Now, President Obama did reach out to Speaker Boehner and Minority Leader Mitch McConnell today. He called them to discuss possibly how to move forward. That's the first substantive sign I've seen. But also, Mitch McConnell is tired of these 11th-hour deals, and I don't think you're going to get anything done by March 1st. And maybe then we have to see how the sequester plays out, who gets the blame, who doesn't. And then remember, March 27th is when the funding for the government expires. So the sequester will kick in if Congress does nothing, and Congress is very good at doing nothing. So that'll kick in. But then come March 27th, they have to have a deal to fund the government, or the government will shut down. And Republican leaders don't want to shut down the government. So maybe the sequester will be in effect for a month, and then as part of that deal, they'll get a sequester deal.
How did we get to the sequester?
We got through it amazingly. So through the Budget Control Act of 2011, that those intense deficit talks that almost led to a grand bargain between Speaker Boehner and President Obama, but collapsed at the last second. So what they decided to do is they were going to set up the super committee. Remember that the failed super committee that was going to come up with a bipartisan approach to reducing the deficit. They failed, and so then what kicked in was these automatic sequester cuts, and Bob Woodward has reported that it was the Obama administration's idea to set up this sequester, which is basically, President Obama calls it a meat cleaver. These are not smart cuts. Everyone agrees they're kind of dumb cuts, but they just slash everything, whether that's anything that it's not done selectively. These are basically cuts across the whole government. And the thinking was, well, no one will want that. So in order to avoid that, we would get this type of grand bargain by the super committee, or there would be some kind of major deal reached. Alas, no deal has been reached. The fiscal cliff deal, it was supposed to go into effect January 1. The fiscal cliff deal pushed it back 2 months. And here we are, heading to the end of February, and the sequester is coming a week from tomorrow.
How significant is it you're mentioning that Bob Woodward says it was the president's idea?
It's something Republicans are latching on to, and this is a tough game to play for Republicans because Congress is out this week, so President Obama is having press conferences on this. He's getting a lot of attention. He's using the bully pulpit while Republicans are issuing press releases, and so that's difficult. Now, Congress gets back next week, but one of the things they have repeatedly said, and the White House has acknowledged this, is that the origin of the sequester came from the White House. However, President Obama's approval ratings are at a 3-year high, and congressional approval ratings are in the single digits. So,
but they're always in the single digits, so that's not saying anything.
No, usually the president is always higher, but Obama has the upper hand now. He's coming off the election win. Now, Republicans think they can win this. They can hammer home the message, and it is a message war. This is not.
I want to get away. I want you to get away from us for a minute about Republicans and Democrats and who has the upper hand and who's having press conferences and who's sending press releases. What is the moral and the conscious thing to do in this manner? Forget it. What is in the best interest of we the people, not from episode to episode, but the future of this country?
Well, I think to get a deal that has spending cuts that are smarter than this. I mean, when you have people protecting our country, like and the FBI and people who are going out and risking their lives, and they have to be furloughed. I mean, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. I do think that a bipartisan deal where they come up where they're targeting possibly some billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. They're coming up with other cuts that are smarter. I mean, President Obama has said he doesn't like it. He'd rather do selective cuts. Well, But Republicans say, well, what are they? I mean, we need to see some specificity. And the problem here is, Armstrong, I think, is that neither side is offering that many specifics because they're playing a political game now. They're not playing a policy game. And I think that now, do I think the world is going to end next Friday because of these cuts? Absolutely not. But at the same time, these are going to be painful cuts, and people are going to lose their jobs. And both members of Congress and the White House is going to feel that. So remember, the Budget Control Act was signed by President Obama, and it was supported by Republicans in Congress as well as Democrats in Congress. So really everyone is to blame. On the other hand, a lot of people there has to be cuts. There's no way we can continue on this fiscal path without making major changes in either defense or entitlement reform. It has to happen.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. Just like the Affordable Care Act seeks to ensure people with public or private coverage can find high-quality health care, AAA911health.com offers consumers with access to better information, quality care, and big-time savings on your health care. Yes, big time. AAA911health.com offers a 90-day money-back guarantee. That's right. If AAA911health.com haven't saved you money, guess what? They will pay you back in full your membership with no questions asked. Just tell them Armstrong Williams sent you to AAA911health.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sports shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the Armstrong Williams, and thank you so much for joining us. Kurt, you've been holding. What's on your mind? Oh, gone. Good. Our phone lines are open. Listen, we need to cut spending in this country. It has to be cut, but it can't be like a meat cleaver. You just can't just cut for the sake of being cut. And Bob is right. I mean, furloughing border agents and FBI agents and other secure positions is just not the answer. But when will America get its financial house in order? When? When will we get our house in order? We just keep passing the bucket, kicking the bucket, and with the same old results. Listen, listen. I'm not here for the blame game. I'm not here for that. I'm here to see what the solutions are, and we need solutions to these issues that we face. These are some very serious issues that we're facing today, and no one seems to want to address the tough issues and make the tough decisions. Look, in your home, sometimes you have to make tough decisions. Decisions are not always easy. Miss Paulette, thank you for calling. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. Just good to hear from you again and talk to you again.
You make me feel so good. Thank you.
We got some high-dollar people in the White House. You know what? If you cut their funds and put them on furlough, that might make a bigger difference. But we paying them to do what? Fuss and argue, complain, and act like a bunch of dissatisfied chickens that need to go somewhere and roost because they ain't doing that now.
You know what? And that's true. What are they doing? And what do they have to show for what they're doing, Miss Paulette? And why do we keep sending them back?
I guess because we believe that they're going to do right this time. Well, this time is over. There's no more time because they're not doing it this time and no other time. They need to be dismissed. That's all I say about the whole thing. See, they're scared of their money, but they forgot the Federal Reserve is owned privately. It's not owned by the United States. It's a private company that owns the money.
Are you worried about your grandchildren's future?
And I'm concerned about my grandchildren. We're going to make it just like we had to make it, by the sweat of our brow and the sole of our feet. What you mean?
So do you really think that the sky's not really falling, that America's seen worse times?
We've seen worse times. But you know what? We have the ability to make it right. But see, when they're bickering and arguing, acting like a bunch of squabbling hens, and they got more hormones than half the women that's in there. It just kills me the way they act. They act like little spoiled brats, and they don't want to accomplish anybody. It's like, I want my ball and I'm taking it home, and I'm not gonna play unless you play right the way I want you to play. They acting like a bunch of kids.
You know, it's almost shocking what they're able to get away with, and it doesn't seem that it's improving, that it's getting any better. I don't think, if people would just really stop and think what we're getting and the financial malaise that we find ourselves in, I think it would be too overwhelming for them. I bet you can't run your house that way.
Oh, no. But you know what? Neither of them have the ability to call a truce and do what is right. They're going to fool around, and most of them are not going to get voted in again. They should not even be forever anyway.
You know what? I don't know if they really care, Miss Paulette. I really don't.
Oh, if it hit their pocketbooks, they'll start caring then. It ain't hitting their pocketbooks yet.
But these policies...
I heard an old man say, if you take the change out their pocket, they'll start working.
But you know what? Their policies, the same laws that apply to us don't apply to them.
Well, it should be. They're the same human beings that's walking on this earth. Maybe they can negotiate different things on the level that they are, but I see it like this. We are supposed to be in it for America, for the American people, redoing our bridges, redoing our roads, and generating finances that people can get paid a livable wage and people can work harmoniously. We are acting like a bunch of fools, and the other countries is looking at us as a bunch of squabbling hens, and they used to look to us to be the example.
You know, actually, I think they're salivating watching the undoing and the unraveling of America. Ms. Paulette, thank you so much for calling. It's always good hearing from you.
Thank you.
Zeke, you're in the house. Again, Zeke, you're in the house.
Armstrong, how are you today?
Zeke.
Armstrong. Look, I'm going to start off by asking you a question, if you don't mind.
Of course, go ahead.
Why do you think these guys are bickering and fighting and not getting anything resolved?
Well,
why? What do you think?
Well, the president won the battle with the fiscal cliff. The Republicans were embarrassed. They were forced to raise taxes on the wealth class, and here the president comes back again with the sequestration, which Bob Wood admitted the president put in place, and it's more like a meat cutter. But the president again wants to raise taxes on the wealthy. Doesn't want to cut spending except surface spending, and the Republicans have drawn a line in the sand and said, "Look, you're not going to raise any more taxes. I'm sorry. Let the sequester pass. It's not the end of the world."
Okay, all right. But do you know when the argument's going to be over?
The argument.
I'm going to tell you when the argument's going to be over.
The argument will never be over.
The argument is going to be over, Armstrong. And you could, if I was a bet, I would put money on bet. But the argument is going to be over when President Obama gets out of office. When Mitch McConnell and John Boehner, Congress, and all these people is confronted with another white man in office, they will not fight as much as they're fighting now. I have never seen in my whole, I'm 59 years old, 58, I'm sorry. Yeah. I've never seen Congress fight against no president that was ever in office like this.
Oh, come on, Bill Clinton, George
Come on,
you got to be kidding me.
Oh,
please, come on.
That's the problem right there.
Come on. That's your
Your
perspective.
response to me is part of the problem.
Oh, come on,
See,
Zeke.
everybody's they're saying, just like you. Oh, come on. Oh, get off that horse, man. Look at this thing for what it is. I'm telling you right now, I'm glad that President Obama was elected. I'm glad he was elected. I'm proud that he became the president. But I'll be glad when he released this thing. And let these white folks look at each other in the face and let them resolve it. And I'm guarantee you, they will not be fighting like this.
Well, the president stands between two worlds. He's white and black.
Right, but they're not looking at it like that. They're looking at him as a black man like you and me.
Are you
I'm
black?
telling you, that's just a reality. Whether you want to accept that or not, that's you have your own opinion and your own.
Zeke, all I want to say to you is say this: this has nothing to do with race, brother.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay, Armstrong. All right, that's what you believe, and you have the right to your belief, and I have my belief, and I have the right to my belief. Okay, that's just the bottom line, man.
Okay.
Thank you, Armstrong. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Zeke, so much for calling. This is not about race. It's about spending cuts. Where do you find the cuts? Who's going to shoulder the burden and the brunt of these cuts? And how do you protect your constituency that put you in office? And how do you protect the constituency that can put you in office? I mean, listen, if we the people, if our interests is taken care of, all the merrier. Hello, Miss Mary Jane. Miss Mary Jane, just turn it down and talk to me. Talk to me, Mary Jane.
Okay. How you doing?
It's good to hear your voice. A little raspy today.
Well, the comments that I wanted to make is that it's good that we have the black press, because the black press and Mr. Benjamin F. Chavis and Mrs. Mary Alice Thatch brought the Wilmington 10 to the I'm trying to say to the mayor. No, yes, No, he was the.
What do you? Don't lose me. Don't lose me. I'm trying to keep.
No,
I'm trying to
only
understand.
thing I'm trying to say that before. Let me say that before the governor left office because of the press, the Wilmington 10 was they moved the crime that they had committed, that they say they committed.
Miss Mary
It was
Jane,
Wilmington 10.
I gotta tell you, I don't know whether
Because
it's
of the black press, the governor, he gave the they was innocent. He pardoned them.
Okay, Miss Mary
Did you
Jane.
understand what I'm trying to say?
But you call me back later on in the week. We're out of time. You hear the music, but it's always good hearing from you. And thank you. And I'm sorry we ran out of time before you were able to complete what you were saying. Take care, everybody. We want to thank our guests, Brian Zimmer, Bob Cusack, and all our listeners.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit